Hello everyone, I'm Dimitri, I'm the developer of InfraNodus text network analysis tool. I'm going to show you some of the new and exciting features that we've implemented into the tool in the last month. So first of all, if you open any graph, right now if you click on the editor panel here, you can see the information about the graph. The name of the graph, the type of the graph, so is it a standard graph or is it a Twitter data import or Google data import, when it was created, when was the last statement added, and then here you have two more fields. One is the meta information about the graph, where you can add some specific information. Let's say I still need to work on developing the ideas around the notion of physical movement further. So you can add a note about the graph, click save, and then as you can see here, this information is saved, so next time you open it, it's going to be here. It's just a way to add some notes and ideas about the graph that you're working on. And also a great new feature is the ability to add the graph into favorites. So if you click on meta and then click on this star, then as you can see, it's added into favorites. What does it do? When you open the graph again, you will see a star next to it, and you can see the stars next to the graphs that are your favorites, so it enables you to sort of go through them in a much easier way. One other interesting feature is the ability to merge nodes, which you already know about. So for example, let's say if I think that physical movement should be combined into one node, I can select them both and then click on the merge button here, and then I can create a name for them. By default, it's the combination of the two, so it's going to be physical movement, and then I click this plus button, and then these nodes are unified into one. Let's say I add some more and I decide to link data feedback. So I do that, again, data feedback becomes a new node. And then let's say I want to also combine learning algorithm. Okay, so now the graph is much easier to read. I can also filter the nodes, so I can only show the most important stuff. To filter, you need to click here. Now, let's say that I would like to break all these linkages. So one way to do this is to go and click on the linked node and then click the unlink button, which is then going to reload the graph without the link. But if you would like to unlink all the nodes together, you go into settings, and then you just click on unmerge all. By the way, all of them are listed here, so you can unmerge them all one by one or manually how you want. And then when you reload the graph, after that, you will see that all the merged nodes are unmerged again. So this is one other really interesting feature that I wanted to show you. Also, one other thing is that when you go into settings, you can extend the maximum number of nodes shown. So for example, if you want to see more than 150 nodes, click on extend, go into settings, and choose the number of nodes you would like to see here. For instance, can be 300 or whatever is the number that you're interested in. Actually, it's always good to have not more than 150, otherwise the graph becomes unreadable. But for some purposes, it can also be interesting to add more. One last feature that I would like to demonstrate is a really great one. It was requested a lot by our users, and this is the ability to save the current state of the graph. So for example, let's say I'm working on the graph, I decide, okay, learning algorithm should be merged into a node, so I do this here. Okay, then I decide to delete the word interesting, because this is not so relevant. Let's say I did some filtering stuff, and I decided, okay, this is the shape of the graph that I would like to continue working on later. And now I want to save it. So how do I do that? You have this save button here. You can choose among the available versions, or you can save this version as a new graph. So for instance, let's say I call it version for presentations. I can also make it default. If I make it default, each time I'm going to click on the graph, this version is going to be loaded, but let's not make it default for now. Let's just save this version. As you can see, it's saved. And then let's say we leave the graph and then come back to it later. what happens is that InfraNodus stores the latest state of your graph, at least all the deleted nodes and all the selected nodes, but you see it doesn't store the filter because this feature is something that you're working on and you don't want to see these filters all the time. Let's say I want to load the graph again. So how do I do this? I go into the Save menu, click Presentations, the one I want to load, then I click Load. And what I'm going to see now is exactly the graph that I saved, that I was working on in the last minutes. You see, now let's say I want to make it default, so I go Presentations, Default, make it default, and then what happens is that now it's saved, we see the message here. If I open some other graph later, or I leave this menu and then I come back, what's going to happen is that this view that I just saved is going to be loaded as the default one. And then if I want to reset it, let's say I'm like interested more in the original version. Yes, I can click Original, see the original version. It's always saved by default. And then I say that, okay, call it Original and make it default. So now when this graph is loaded, this original version is always going to be loaded no matter what. Okay, so this is a really nice feature that allows you to track different versions of your graph and gives you the possibility to store your workflow and to share it with others. Because let's say if you then would like to share this graph, you can easily do this if you go to the Share menu and make it public, and automatically the graph that you see on the screen is going to be shared with the others. So if you want to share the specific one that you saved, you just select this graph and then click the share button. So these are the features for now. There are many more coming, and I'm going to demonstrate them in the next videos. You can try it out on infranodus.com. Thank you.